What's going on, people? It is your boy Svenny D, and as you can see, I'm rocking a nice little motorcycle helmet, and I got a nice little bike next to me. Today we are going to be reviewing the 2016 Kawasaki Ninja 650. Just to give you guys a little bit of a backdrop on how long I've been riding for and my experience with this bike thus far. I got my license this year in the first week of May, and it's the second week of August right now, so I've been riding for a few months. I bought this beautiful lady right here, brand new. It had 8 miles on it when I had actually purchased it. Right now we're at about 5,000 miles, so I do have, a good amount of experience. By no means am I an experienced expert rider who's going to be going 180 miles an hour, popping wheelies and shit like that. But I've ridden it enough to get a good grasp on this bike and to be very comfortable riding. So I'm not somebody that just bought a bike and got my license yesterday, nor am I somebody that's been riding for 10 years that has 100,000 miles under my belt. So with that said, let's get started. So first things first, visually, this bike is pretty damn sexy. It's got the green, black, kind of fades into like a silverish white color as it goes down. It's funny because I didn't really think that I'd be a huge fan of the Kawasaki green, but let me tell you, I absolutely love how the bike looks, especially when it gets all shined up and spruced up for a night on the city. It looks really, really sharp. There's nothing on this bike cosmetically that I'm really not a big fan of. You can see the tack and stuff like that. It's got a nice little setup. It's pretty simple, nothing too crazy. It's something that I really like the dash setup on the Kawasaki Ninja 300s. I really do. It seems like it looks really sleek and really sharp, so I didn't like this one as much, but it's really grown on me. It's got a number of different features that we'll cover. The tires, we'll go into those. So these tires, they are Dunlop Sportsmax, what are they? DS14s. So you got the DS14 on the back and the DS14F on the front. Like I said, I bought this bike brand new, and it has about 5,000 miles. Let's actually see how many miles it has exactly. So actually we're at 5,222 miles. Pretty stellar if you ask me. My tire is pretty solid. It's starting to square up a little bit, but by no means is the tire itself starting to get shot. Trying to get a picture so you can see that it is squaring up, but you can see it does have a pretty good amount of tread left on it. So I guess I would be expecting these tires to get, I don't know, 6, 7, maybe 8,000 miles on them if I'm lucky, which for a stock tire, that's something that I'm very satisfied with. As far as the tires themselves actually handle, they are amazing for upright riding. I'm not a crazy son of a bitch that goes 120 miles around twisties and shit like that, but the tires have very, very good grip. I mean, I have never once slipped anywhere going around turns. A couple of times I've had to stop pretty quickly. I've never had any issues with the tires at all. I absolutely love them, and I would recommend them to anybody for an upright type of riding. Like I said, I've never really pushed them to the limit, going crazy fast around corners. I've taken a couple of turns at like between 70 and 90 miles an hour on a highway, so it wasn't like super sharp turns, but anything I've ever pushed these tires to, they've always responded great. No issues whatsoever. The actual features of the bike, pretty standard setup. You got your high beam, low beam, turning signal, horn, your 4-ways. On the back here, there's a little switch. It's your passing light for when you're driving at night. You got the engine kill switch. ignition. Obviously, you got your clutch and your brake. They are adjustable, which is nice depending on, I don't know, how big your hands are, I guess you could say. Going into the dash, so you obviously have the total amount of miles you've ridden. You have a couple of different trip settings. Trip A, Trip B, gives you miles per gallon, your miles per gallon average, your range until you run out of gas. Pretty sleek design. You can see it goes up to 1300 RPMs. I don't know if you can see that. I apologize about the glare. Over here you got a neutral light indicator. So it's a really sleek setup. I like it. It's basic. It's great for starting out. Nothing too technical or complex. Obviously you got your little turning signal or four-way lights. Solid setup overall in my opinion. Obviously here got the ignition right on top. You got your gas tank. In the back, I am probably going to get a fender eliminator kit and get rid of this nice piece of plastic. You got your turning signals, plate, pretty standard stuff there. I mean, even so, I don't mind it. Like, I don't think it really hurts the bike visually. I know a lot of people get rid of that right off the bat. For me, it's just something where I just got this bike and started riding, so it really wasn't a big deal to me whatsoever. Really like this bike. So it kind of brings up another thing too that a lot of people told me about starting out on a 650, which I'm going to do an entirely different video on, but just for this video's sake, starting out on a 650 is a great idea in my opinion. It's not something that I feel like I'm going to outgrow really quick. I feel very comfortable with this bike. I can push it and have no issue with it whatsoever. But at the same time, it's very powerful, and that might sound crazy to some people, but I really do feel like this is a powerful bike. It gets up and it goes really quick. Obviously, some of the supercharged super sport bikes would blow this out of the water, yes, but the bike itself is more than enough for somebody starting out, and I don't think that it's too much to where somebody starting out is going to kill themselves on it, which is always a good thing to have. One thing that I really like about this bike is the way the handlebars are. Let me see if I can get in here and give you a good picture, but they're not tucked down like a lot of the sport bikes are. They're very upright, which I absolutely love because this bike is extremely comfortable to sit on. You have a lot of seating area, and also for a sport bike, the passenger seat is pretty big as well. I mean, you've got a lot of area there, so it's not like they're sitting on a tiny little seat. My wife and myself have gone on rides for a couple of hours on this together, and no issues with comfort whatsoever. I think the handlebars have a lot to do with that because you're not really hunched over a shit ton while you're riding. As far as driving this goes on the highway, I know a lot of people say beginner bikes, which I don't know if this is technically a beginner bike per se, because it's obviously a lot bigger and a lot different than the actual 250s or 300s. But a lot of people said, you know, on a lot of beginner bikes, you really don't want to ride with a passenger or drive them on the highways because they're going to shake, fly all over the place, they're too light, yada yada. This is another thing with this bike. It has performed much better than I could have ever hoped for. I have no issues driving on the highway, whether it's a super windy day or, you know, a nice calm day and a lot of traffic. No issues whatsoever. I've gotten hit on the highway in the rain a couple of times, and I have nothing to gripe about with this bike. There's nothing I think they could have done better in setting up this bike and putting it together. Overall, great buy. I think they are right around $7,000 US dollars at this moment in time. I would totally recommend, if you're somebody that's starting out like I was and you're really erring towards getting a 300 or 250 or whatever it may be, I would recommend you at least try to take one of these out for a test drive. Like I said, You're not going to kill yourself on it. It's not, you know, an overly powerful bike where you're going to land the throttle a tiny bit and you're going to fly off. It's more than suitable for somebody that's just starting out. Like I said, I took the MSF course with no riding experience. I went to the dealership the next day, got this bike. A couple of days after that, I drove it off the lot. And this was the first bike that I had ever ridden outside of the MSF course, where all they had was the little 250 Honda Rebels. Or wait, what was it? They had Shadows, Rebels. I don't know what else they had. But overall, highly recommend this bike. Pick it up. I'm planning on having this for probably, I would say, obviously the rest of this year, maybe take it throughout next year. Maybe the year after that, I might be ready to look into something different. As far as breaking it down and giving this bike overall ratings in various categories, based solely off my experience with it thus far, performance, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Handling, 8 out of 10. Comfort, 10 out of 10, and I really think that's where this bike excels in compared to other sport bikes. The reason for the 8 out of 10 on the performance and handling, that's a pretty damn good score in my book, and the reason that I'm not going to give it a 10 is just because there's other sport bikes that would obviously blow this one out of the water in those two categories. But any situation I've ever been in with this bike, it's always responded much better than I could have ever hoped for. And the reason my expectations were very limited from the get-go was just based off what other people told me, and that brings up another good point I'll get to in a second. But as far as the comfort goes, like I said, that's where this bike is really going to excel, and I think takes the cake over other sport bikes with. It's a very comfortable bike. It's got a good amount of weight to it, but it's not super heavy. I can't honestly recall the exact weight of the bike off the top of my head, but you can go online and check that out. But overall, this bike, for a starter bike, I would give it a 10 out of 10. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I only have 4 or 5 months experience riding a bike, so take it for what you want. But last thing I forgot to cover, and that is the actual sound of the bike itself. So I'm gonna fire it up really quick, let you take a quick look at it. Not a quick look, but I guess a quick listen while you're taking a quick look, if that makes any sense. So we'll go in here and start this baby up. So flip that down. Pretty nice sound. I mean, I've definitely heard much better. So that's how it sounds. I really like the sound. One thing that's kind of a bummer is that with the way the bike is set up, you're kind of limited in customization with a muffler. Slip-ons and stuff like that aren't going to be as easy or as compatible as you would find on other bikes. So just another thing to keep in mind. Overall, if you're somebody that is thinking about getting into riding, or you definitely want to get into riding, or maybe you're already riding, you're just looking to upgrade from a 300, or maybe even downgrade from something that you might have realized was a bit too powerful, I would highly recommend you check out this bike. Now, going back to what I previously mentioned about putting a lot of stock into what other people told me, literally I've realized, aside from the safety tips I was given, always don't ever take those for granted. But as far as a lot of people telling me that this bike wouldn't be enough, or even others telling me that it was going to be too much to start out, the only way you're ever going to find that out is if you get out there and you ride one. Like I said, I think this bike is more than suitable for starting out. I would recommend starting out on this 650 over a 250 or a 300 every day of the week. That's my recommendation. Some of you might get on it and you might feel like it's too powerful. So take what I say as a grain of salt. Let it take you down a path to form your opinion, but most importantly, make sure that you form your own opinion and just don't go off what somebody else says. So I know this was a really quick and brief review of the bike. If there's anything in particular you'd like to see reviewed on it specifically because you're thinking about getting one or you're interested in looking at it for whatever the reason may be, let me know in the comments down below what you'd like to see on the bikes. This is a 2016 Kawasaki Ninja 650. It is your boy Svenny D, and I will catch y'all later. Peace.